Good evening, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of High Top Sports. We are here live right now, ready to rock and roll as we're going to do our college game day show where we recap week 4. Got a lot to go over, a lot to talk about. Saban versus obviously Lane Kiffin. Then we got FSU. Norvell topping off Dabo Sweeney. Then we're going to talk about Colorado getting absolutely rolled by Oregon. And then Ohio State, Ryan Day, pulling one out of the sack there against Notre Dame. And then having some comments after the fact about Lou Holtz. It's going to be a jam-packed show. We got some fun segments that we're excited to talk about. So, Cody, without further ado, happy to have you here. Happy Sunday. How you feeling, big guy?
Feeling pretty good. Son had a football game this afternoon, way out of in the middle of nowhere, so it was like a 2-hour drive. Got the W. Didn't look great, but we still got the win.
I love it. Good for him. Good stuff. Guys, we're going to have a little bit of fun here. We've got a jam-packed show, like I said. We're going to have some segments laid out for you to go over a few things, and then we're going to have our top 5. Cody and I's top 5, mainly my top 5, and then Cody's just going to have to agree with it because we don't have time to to discuss it. But we're going to have our first little segment. It's going to be called Old Reliable. Let's get into it. Old Reliable, Saban versus Kiffin. Everyone told me to go with Nick Saban. I thought Lane Kiffin was going to take the buck here and run away with the thing. But again, Old Reliable gets it done once again. When you see that 3:30 time slot with Bama on there and Ole Miss, you got to stick with the guns. It's grandfathered in. Pops has still got it, and Lane Kiffin goes home upset. I'm devastated. I was texting you just beyond frustrated with what happened. I thought for sure Ole Miss, this was their year. You've got Saban down and out. His back's against the wall. Can't seem to figure out the quarterback room situation. You struggle against USF. I know it's at home. I was just flabbergasted by the fact that Alabama was favored by 6. The complete disrespect. You got Lane Kiffin feeling himself. Lane Kiffin, you are a fraud. I am beyond frustrated with you. I enjoy me some Lane Kiffin. I love his energy. I want to see him win. I would love to see more of Lane Kiffin as long as it's not taking out my Florida Gators. But you just continue to do the same thing year in and year out. And what blows my mind is some Florida fans wanted him. I don't want that guy on a 10-foot pole. He's just all flash and no bite. I love the style, love the swagger. This was your opportunity, and you let me down, and you let maybe half the country down. I think most people expected Bama. I was the only one that was blinded by it. What are your thoughts, Cody?
Yeah, absolutely. Lane Kiffin just lays another egg again. He is the world's greatest used car salesman. So you go and lose the Egg Bowl. You flirt with another team in Auburn last year. You get a big contract extension, and you never really win the big games. And yet again, another big game that Lane Kiffin loses. It's over and over again. He's dropped 4 to Nick Saban. He's 0-4 against Saban as his previous head coach. It's one of those things where I feel like the hype train behind Kiffin, I don't know why so many people love him, but stay at Ole Miss because he can stay there forever, not win the big games, get a couple flashy wins every now and then. But as you said, I feel like he's a fraud.
Yeah, he definitely is a fraud, and it's frustrating because, again, this was your game to get it done. Ole Miss isn't going to be upset about it or frustrated because that's Ole Miss. They're expected. This is what they expect. It's going to be okay. They'll move on. I was expecting more from Ole Miss. Look, I think Ole Miss will roll Auburn. Auburn didn't give me any reason to believe. I feel confident in my pick that they're going to be the bottom half of the SEC West. They looked like it on past Saturday. So did Texas A&M. Neither team wanted to win in the beginning, and then the A&M started to pull away when that new quarterback came into play. I think Max Johnson is his name. But look, this destroyed me. The whole weekend just was a complete array of what I thought was going to happen. I don't think I got a single pick 'em right. I was completely off the mark on everything. I had Notre Dame. I think I got Utah was the only one that I got right. I missed the Auburn pick. I missed the Ole Miss pick. I missed the Colorado pick by an absolute mile. So it just felt like I couldn't get it rolling here. And I thought this was going to be the game to bring it back. At least be close. At least give me something to cheer for. The only exciting game, in my opinion, which this week we've waited for all week, this entire year, only really exciting game happened to be Ohio State and Notre Dame.
Yeah, and it's another thing where I feel like the expectations aren't there, so it doesn't really matter to Ole Miss, like you just said. But it's like at one point, as flashy as you are, I mean, you got to step up, you got to nut up, and you got to win the big one. Get your popcorn ready, right?
Absolutely. He needed to get it done there. But look, that is our segment, Old Reliable there. Definitely one of my favorite segments. Again, just Nick Saban getting it done. I wanted to call it the grandfathered in because it's almost like that time slot. If it's an absolute lock, right? When you see that on the calendar, you know so-and-so is going to get it done. We'll see who falls into that slot for Old Reliable next week. Could be Florida up against Kentucky, getting back to the old ways where we would see that game and think like, hey, no problem. Past couple years now, it has not been that case. Hopefully we can get back on that Old Reliable train. But we'll see what we have for the nominations for Old Reliable going into next week. Next, we have our next segment, which is another one of my favorites, called You Like That? You like that? You like that? This one I absolutely love. This is for Norvell because Norvell gives me Kirk Cousins energy and to an extent, right? Just, hey, you like that? Goes up against Dabo with the rock. Dabo's running down the hill, going 1,000 miles a minute. They're trying to bounce back. Clemson's trying to find themselves. And FSU holds on. They get a gritty win. They figure it out. They get it done. He takes down Big Bro and Dabo Sweeney. Huge win for Mike Norvell and FSU. I know, look, FSU fell down in the national poll. They fell for us as well in our top 5, which we'll go over in just a little bit here, but for good reason. There was 2 weeks now where they have struggled. They haven't looked great. Clemson looked like Florida has the last 2 years where they basically just lost themselves. Poor game management at the end there by Dabo Sweeney. Just a completely sloppiness happening all across the field. They should have won this thing 19 times. Clemson should have. Just couldn't get it done. You let a better team stick around, and then they proved to be the better team at the end of the game. Keon Coleman, I got to give him his flowers here. I know he isn't a top PFF 100 wide receiver. He might be now, but I know we've been giving Harlan some crap about that. The guy's an absolute baller. Give the man his flowers. He's getting the job done. Now, will FSU continue to go down this path and be successful? I like to think so. That Duke game could be a little bit of a trap game. I don't think that it will. I think that Miami game is going to have a lot more juice to it than it originally did at the beginning of the season. This ACC schedule at one point seemed pretty easy, but there's definitely some trap games in there for FSU that they could find themselves tripping up on. And if not, they're going to roll into Drake May and UNC, it seems to be, in that ACC championship. So they are by no stretch out of the hot water by any means whatsoever. Clemson used to be the big bad wolf in there, but they have seemed to have fallen and slid a long way. Clemson's got Notre Dame at the end of the year. Clemson could end up losing 4 or 5 games, and this could be the end of Dabo as we know it. There was a graphic I saw earlier just showing where Dabo and Mike Norvell line up on the transfer portal. Dabo has completely turned his head to the transfer portal. And something that I've also said with Saban, going back to the Old Reliable, my concerns with him is he's not adjusting. Dabo hasn't adjusted at all, but doesn't have near the credentials or the history that Saban has and the ability to bounce back, and is starting to get a little exposed here. And we could see Sabo's way out of Clemson speeding up here a little bit. Coach?
Yeah, so there's two parts to this. I get the transfer thing. It's one thing if you're rock and rolling and winning a bunch of games and you don't need the transfer portal, that's fine if you want to be like that if you're Dabo. But the offense is just terrible. They really have no weapons on the outside, wide receivers to stretch. The Klubnik is not what Lawrence was. It's one of those things where you just wonder if the offensive struggles that Clemson has had in the past weeks and during this game, they should have won it over and over and over again. That FSU practically tried to hand you on a silver platter and you still couldn't get it done. It makes you wonder if him being stuck in his ways is going to be the downfall of Clemson and the downfall of Dabo.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And like I said, Klubnik, Mr. Fumble Hands there, couldn't hang on to the ball to save his life. FSU tried to give it away a few times, it felt like. But here's the thing that I learned from watching this FSU game. I noticed it during the LSU game, but I wasn't quite sure if it was just the game. The weak point of Clemson is the cornerback play. They were getting sliced and diced, which if I'm an FSU fan, I would be nervous for that North Carolina matchup. The Duke team I'm not too familiar with, but obviously they diced up Clemson pretty well. Didn't even allow them to get over, I think, 7 points. But That DB room is going to need some work. I think the trenches held up just fine, but towards the end of the game, Clemson was running all over them. What happened? I don't know. Still believe in FSU's D-line, but the DB is definitely their weak area, and this isn't me taking a shot, just simply observing what's happening here. But look, all in all, they got the job done. And in a tight rivalry game like this, you can't hold FSU that accountable. It was a 2-point spread. They covered the spread. They did their job. They went into a hostile environment at noon in a place they haven't won in over a decade, maybe longer, and got the job done. So congrats to FSU. Doesn't make them put them in our top 5, but all in all, hell of a game for them. Go ahead.
Yeah, 2015 was the last win for FSU versus Clemson. So that's a big hurdle. And the kind of the knack early on Mike Norvell, we always wondered is, can he win the big ones, right? And he has proven again and again. LSU, he's beat them twice.
But last year he choked though, right? And now last year he choked with Wake Forest, NC State, and Clemson. It seems to be
Wake
this
Forest
is
yeah, Wake Forest is not going to be the Wake Forest of last year. I think they'll handle them. FSU should win the ACC, and if they don't, it's their own fault because they are the best team on the field. They were better than Clemson.
Sure. I mean, they didn't look like it, but the talent-wise, you got to think they've got enough talent, especially with what they've done in the portal, to get the job done. Boys and girls, hope you guys are enjoying the show thus far. This is our college recap game day show. We're going to be running every Sunday moving forward. We decided to move on from the NFL show. Hope you guys are enjoying it. If you are, smash the like button. Subscribe if you're brand new. We're less than 100 subs away from 17,000 subs. So happy to have all of you here. Good to see your beautiful faces. Next up, another one of my favorite. They're all my favorites because they're new. So let's just get that out of the way right now. Is the rebound. So Ryan Day bouncing back after what was a lackluster performance last year. Obviously, this was kind of their big rebound game for them. Can they continue to be the Ohio State that everyone expects them to be? I didn't believe they would be, as well as Lou Holtz. He had some things to say, which we're going to get into right now before we break the rest of this thing down, because I think this video encompasses just my opinion of Ryan Day, how everyone feels about it. It's great stuff.
And I coached at Ohio State under Woody Hayes. We won the national championship when I was there.
That's right.
So I'm proud of that. However, he has lost to Alabama, Georgia, Clemson, Michigan twice, and everybody that beats him does so because they're more physical than Ohio State.
You were fairly emotional coming off that field. What were you feeling at that moment?
Well, I've been emotional. Team will tell you that for the last couple of days. When I started hearing some of the things that we're saying, first off, it's not true. I don't know where people get off just saying things. It really upsets me. Put the film on. People make comments, and they don't watch film. Our guys are tough. They're physical. They do. They get after it. And they did it again tonight.
And you said that was Coach Holtz?
Yeah, it was.
Front row, Tim May on 3.
I don't know where he gets off saying those type of things. I don't. I mean, I have some other things I'd like to say too, but I'm not going to say that because I'm more respectful than he is.
Clearly irritated, clearly frustrated with Lou Holt's comments. I mean, bro, take it easy, buddy. He's like 87, just hanging out on the Pat McAfee show, just giving him some thoughts about Notre Dame. I mean, he's passionate. You know what I mean? Like, seems a bit over the top there, but I don't know. I feel like this is the year of, it's like the WWE of head coaches here recently. Like, I don't understand. We've got on one side, you got Coach Prime. You've got every coach going up against him. You've got Ryan Day losing his shit over here. And then on the flip side, we've got Billy Bean at Florida that won't give us a damn, side of sprinkles with his ice cream. It's wild to me. It's been interesting to watch. I love the passion. This is what makes college football what it is you everything is just personal, right? It's much different than the NFL. Lou Holtz, I don't feel like his comments were that far off. He felt that his team was better, and I think Notre Dame was the better football team. Ohio State just stuck around and got the job done and clutched up. The last possession before Ohio State took over the ball was Notre Dame who really lost it. They should have been able to, end the game there. There was like 2 minutes left with the new clock rules. It was just poor execution on Sam Hartman and the Notre Dame's. They kind of got a little flat-footed there, tried to play too protective, and essentially gave Ohio State another opportunity. And there it is. They got the job done in front. Bro, watching that crowd, just the air just be deflated was unreal to watch. And look at this for a Notre Dame that doesn't play in a conference championship, that plays a somewhat mediocre schedule. Now they've got the likes of Clemson, they've got USC. They still have left on their schedule, but they can't really afford to lose a game, especially skipping out on a conference game, which sometimes can elevate you to getting an extra bump. And pass, it also benefits you if you don't lose a game, right? You get to sit out an extra game. But now they're in this weird area where they're not going to have that extra game on their schedule to show, hey, we are the best team in the country. We do deserve to be here. But we'll see how it plays out with Notre Dame and Ohio State. All in all, it was an exciting game to watch. I think it was fun to see Notre Dame finally have some competition. It was exciting to see Ohio State and to see if they were the real deal. We have them. We'll talk about where we have them in our top 5 moving forward. But look, Ryan Day, I questioned him. I said he was a fraud. I'm not completely sold just yet, but look, this game, he takes an L in this game, could very easily turn into a hot seat for Mr. Ryan Day here. Definitely bought himself some time. I don't think he necessarily was on the hot seat. He was on my personal hot seat because you can't continue just to win, to 10 to 11 games. You got to go to the playoffs. You got to give us something juice here. And wasn't sure if we were going to see that. Now, still has to get through Michigan, which is looking like they're on an absolute steamroll engine right now and not slowing down by any stretch. But, Cody, what are your thoughts on that game and Ryan Day getting it done?
Yeah, so Ryan Day, also not a fan of On 3. Just saying.
There's probably a few I could go over if you like. If you got how much time
come on
you
the
got?
Yeah, we can come on the high top and we can talk about it.
Yeah,
So,
we could talk about it. Yeah.
But yeah, I thought that was funny. No, as a coach, and you do. People say don't read the comments, but we've gone through this on here, and it's one of those things where the coaches hear the noise. They hear what's being said about them and about their team, and that was a lot of media said that Ohio State wasn't tough, especially in the trenches, and that they're all flash. Their defense has not been great for years, and that's why they have lost to Michigan over and over and over again, because Michigan's that kind of gritty, hard-nosed, run-it-down-your-throat team. And this is I think Ryan Day knows he has to change something about himself to go win a national championship and to go beat Michigan. And I think this is a good precursor to what we're going to see for the Michigan game. I think that the team takes a appearance of what the head coach is. So if you have a real fiery head coach, you're going to kind of have a fiery team. We see that with Florida and their defense with Austin Armstrong. And I'm just gonna say this. I think this is a big step forward for Ryan Day. I think that watch out for Ohio State, because they might be having something to prove.
Yeah, this might be that game where it kind of puts them on tilt, right? And all of a sudden now, at what seemed to be struggle, they found themselves in this game when their back was against the wall, lights were turned on, felt like nobody wanted them to win, and they were able to get a gritty win. That's a dangerous combination there for somebody like Ryan Day and that Ohio State team. Now, Notre Dame has nothing to hold their head on either. I mean, think about the year they had last year. Finished very strong, but started off extremely sluggish, completely threw their entire season away with the loss to Marshall. Huge bounce-back season. Again, still a long season to go. We'll see how it plays out for Notre Dame. I think they definitely would have found themselves in the top 5 if they were able to pull this off, especially with dominant fashion. But Touchdown Jesus couldn't get it done today, boys and girls. Unfortunately, Notre Dame goes down. Congrats to Ryan Day, shutting me up for at least another week in the belief that he is a fraud. I'll keep it down for now because he got the job done. Over 70 people in here. Hope you guys are enjoying this new little content, little segment here that we got going on. If you are, smash the like button. Happy to see all your beautiful faces here in the comments. Happy Gator, Chomp for Life, Harrison. There's 2 Harrisons, Whitfield and Sanchez. Sorley. How are you guys doing? Sean D, Aaron Joyner. Good to see you, Mama. Happy to have all of you here, boys and girls. Much appreciated. Now, we have a couple more segments here. This probably is my favorite. I know I said the other one's my favorite. This 1,000% is my favorite. It's called You've Been Peeled Off.
Ma'am, is this your vehicle?
Yes, is my son okay?
You won't be needing that one anymore.
That is our segment. You've been peeled off. Colorado has been absolutely peeled off the map of college football after this atrocious showing on Saturday. Knocked out of the top 25 after just being steamrolled by Dan Lanning and the Oregon Ducks. Duck around and find out was their motto for the week, and I loved it. And I've got some more clips to play because, again, it's Coach Prime. There's going to be some jabs taken. Got to play the clip here, then we're going to talk about it. Let's get it.
I don't say stuff just to say it for a click, contrary to what some may say.
The Cinderella story is over, man. Right? They're fighting for clicks. We're fighting for wins.
But, I keep receipts. But I'm serious. I analyze and I understand what we're up against and what we have and what we need. One thing that I could say honestly and candidly, you better get me right now. This is the worst we're going to be. You better get me right now. Now somebody, I got messengers. God bless him though, man. He's a great coach. He did a great job. God bless him. He can take their shots. They won. I don't shoot. I don't do that. They won.
Here's where I disagree with his comments there. And again, everyone knows kind of where I stand with Coach Prime. I'm going to get slaughtered on the internet, but I'm tired of not being able to have a conversation without people just losing their shit about it. I'm not afraid to say, hey, I was wrong or right about it. So I love the energy that Coach Prime brings. This is where people are like, oh, you're always all top of Dion. I love his energy. I love the swagger. That's who I am. Loud mouth, punch you in the mouth. Let's rock and roll. That's my personality. The same reason why I like Lane Kiffin. The same reason I like Shane Beamer. They just don't care, right? They do their own thing, their own way. Myself is included. When you do that, when you act like that, you may not need to actually say anything directly towards somebody to consider a shot, but how you carry yourself is what brings those shots to you. I've learned that from personal experience. That's just what it is. When you walk around flaunting your shit, saying, you think you gonna get what I already got, that's a general shot. We come in, right? You are making a noise. You are putting a target on your back, whether you like it or not. That's just how the world works. They're going to see you out there doing it, and they're not going to like it. They're going to be inferior of it. So you have to anticipate those things. So I'm not a fan of him saying, I don't take my shot. Dion, what's up, bro? You can't tell me we're not taking shots when you're over here thinking we come in, you think you're going. Look, those are taking shots. And I don't mind it. I love it. You have to understand that there's going to be, there's going to be repercussions of that. And I love Dan Lanning utilizing what's on the opposing side. You are going to war, right? So what am I going to do? I'm going to make my guys inferior. I'm going to make my guys frustrated with what's going on the other side. They see it. Those players see it. They see this going on, right? The watch flexing and whatnot. So they're kids. What do you think is going to happen, right? My title here is Oregon gets clicks and wins, because now everybody's clicking on Oregon, seeing what's going on. I mean, by going there to Oregon and just completely steamroll a top 25 team, regardless of people that think they should be in top 25 or not, they were up there. They went in and handled their business through and through. Dan Lanning was not playing games. Bo Nix looked exceptional, and all in all, it was hard to watch. It was boring. I was frustrated that it was so bad, but sometimes a nice little reality check is good for college football. Codes?
So I have two things right here. First of all, let's do the prime thing, right? So when you are now, Colorado probably could have come in and won a lot of games with this roster and not had been loudmouth and not had been flashy, and you probably could have snuck up and sucker punched a lot of decent teams, right? But now everybody is giving you their best. Colorado State gave you your best. This week, Oregon gave you their best. So it's kind of your own fault. Number two, I do probably agree this is the worst Colorado team under Dion that they will probably have. I don't see him staying there longer than 4 or 5 years. My question is, on the Colorado side, with this loss and such a bludgeoning, what's the response going to be for viewing of Colorado football now? Like, what's the response? Like, people are like, okay, yep, they're a fraud. They were flash in the pan. So we're not going to watch them anymore because it was a highly viewed game, and they sold out every game. So do you feel that because the hype was so high and now they get embarrassed like that it's just going to be a deflated downfall of viewership?
Yeah, look, I mean, the fan base doesn't travel like an SEC team would, and this isn't a shot, it's fact. I mean, there's a whole thing called bandwagon buffs because there's a lot of people who hopped on the bandwagon who became a fan of Buffalo and just Coach Prime in general because of what he's able to do for the game. Cool, love that. So do I see a downfall? I think next week's going to be in Colorado against USC. That is going to be a massive game. It'll sell out. It'll be jumping because it's a rebound game. You go win that game, all is forgotten. Right? So the season's not over yet, even though it was a complete massacre. Now, if there's a second massacre here in Colorado, I think we will slowly see a decline in the hype behind Colorado. Absolutely. I don't think it's the end-all, be-all. I mean, they won one game. They've already, mounted what the expectations were. I think that Vegas had them at 4.5. I think they'll still win 5-6 games, which will be huge for Colorado, right? And I think they'll be able to build from that. So if Colorado fans are watching and they're actually true, they should be excited with regardless of, the outcome here. I know a lot of people thought they were going to go win a national championship. Absurd, right? That's completely on the other side of the spectrum. That wasn't even close. But look, getting beat the way they got beat, looked like the Colorado of old. And that is a little concerning. I think where some people might get like, well, dang, what happened those first 3 games? Colorado State might have exposed them a little bit. I mean, they played well against Nebraska. They played well against TCU. Could they get back to it? Oregon's a hard place to go play in. I know when I made my little swamp video, everyone was talking about how Oregon is a hard place to go play. Could be one of those things. And so they get to go back home against USC, who hasn't really looked. They've looked good, but they haven't looked like a top 5 team, right? Although I think I have them a Final Four team. I think they are a good team. There's question marks there. Now, they haven't had to wake up for anybody yet, so I think this will be their first game, too, where they wake up, which unfortunately is bad news for Colorado because this was kind of Oregon's first wake-up game, and they showed out. So I think USC saw that and was like, hey, we have to go make a mockery of this, too, because our opposers did this as well. So we'll see. It's going to be a long road, but that's our segments for peeling off because they got absolutely. I hope you guys enjoyed that.
That's my favorite.
You guys are talking about all kinds of nonsense here.
So my question too is Dan, not question but statement. Dan Lanning, good job for capitalizing on kind of a. I mean, that video is probably gonna go viral, right?
I mean, it already has. That was beginning, and then that was pregame. Well, what's funny is both coaches kind of kept quiet leading up to this game, and then Lanning kind of drops the bombshell that pregame, which I'm fine with that. Like that's healthy, right? Like, anybody to get offended by that, that's what you're supposed to do.
It almost feels like that I don't think that they're doing it on purpose. Well, it may just be the media is always around. It almost feels like a UFC fight, like every week now. Like the coaches are starting to get certain ones, obviously, are starting to get more rowdy and saying stuff that is getting caught on camera. It almost feels like a UFC fight when they do like the, like the weigh-in, post weigh-in interviews and stuff like that when they're just talking shit.
For sure.
I like it. I think it's cool.
It spices it up. I'm not against it. I like the pizzazz. It's taken away a little bit from the kids, but I like a little pizzazz from the coaches every now and then. I don't hate it at all. So with that, I said best top 10 in the country. We're only going to do our top 5 for now. Maybe we'll do top 10 next week. But here are the top 5 that we currently, again, we didn't discuss. This is more of my picks for this week. And here's my reasoning behind this top 5. Texas has came in and done their job every single week. Struggled against Rice week 1. I gave them a lot of flack for it. Since then, they've been dialed in. Beating Bama the way they did was huge. Beating Baylor the way they did was huge in Baylor. A lot of big wins for Texas thus far. Hasn't showed any sign of slowing down. You could probably honestly back and forth between Michigan as well, another team that has been dominant and has done their job. They haven't really covered, but they've been consistent. No reason to move them out of the top 5. Oregon kind of floated around that top 10. I think the way they won and how dominant they were and how great Bo Nix looked, regardless of where you put Colorado or not, the game had a lot of potential and a lot of hype behind it. They showed up. Penn State, somebody who I have not believed in this entire time, I got to eat my words. They absolutely dominated Iowa. I wish I could play the clip right now of Cody thinking that the 14-point spread for Iowa was an absolute lock. Penn State has dominated and done their job as well and won very fashionably, and I think have a great chance of taking down Ohio States and the Michigans, and that's going to be a real, can't wait for that big noon kickoff for whoever they play. And then Ohio State, they definitely showed their colors. They've done their job thus far, and then I think a huge win in South Bend over Notre Dame. Much better win, in my opinion, than the FSU over Clemson. Much better win than USC's done thus far. Georgia just has not looked like a top 5 team to me. I mean, I don't want to be biased, obviously, with the SEC, but they haven't given me a reason to believe, like, hey, let's forget about last year and let's figure about anything else. They haven't looked top 5 material thus far. I think the South Carolina game would have given them an opportunity to be a top 5 team, but I don't believe that it is now. Cody?
Yeah, so I saw in the comments too, where's Georgia? Georgia just doesn't look like the Georgia of the old. And so they didn't, unfortunately, they didn't make the cut. All of these teams have looked better than what Georgia has, correct?
Yeah, and look, I think the thing for me is the top 5. I know, obviously, how the top 5 works now. A lot of it has to do with based off last year, talent on the football team. I kind of wanted to go more off of what we've seen, right? What we've been able to establish this year. And look, Georgia, you could have argued for Georgia to be up there, but honestly, out of these 5 teams, all 5 of these teams have, outside of Michigan, right? So you could argue that Michigan and Georgia have kind of done the same thing, but I think Michigan has handled their business. At no point was their struggle, and Georgia looked like, hey, South Carolina could beat them for a little bit there. And for me, that just kind of, I know they won the game. They came out there, dominated the second half. I understand all those things. But Oregon, obviously big win. Penn State has a couple big wins under their belt. And then Ohio State, a massive win over Notre Dame. So, look, once Georgia gets that first one, we'll have to, rethink this top 5. But as of now, after week 4, this is where I sit. It's crazy to think about. Not a single SEC team is up there. Don't think one deserves to be up there at the time.
Yeah, for sure. I have to agree right now. And everybody says, how good the SEC is, but right now I think it's I think we just had so much talent lost last year in the NFL draft with quarterbacks leaving, with defense, a lot of defensive players getting selected as of like in many years. I think that this year it's just kind of caught the SEC up a little bit, where a lot of these other programs have like 7, 8, 9 year seniors or whatever. They're like, I don't know, doctors or some shit. But I think it's really starting to catch up to the SEC. Now we can see in a couple years that it'll go back to its trending. SEC is dominant, but this year just seems a little off for the SEC. Would you agree, Shelton?
Yeah, I mean, it's not the hot start like it usually is. I think it's evened itself out. I think before we had the top 3, I mean, it's always been top heavy, and I know I always say SEC is great, but it has been top heavy. Bama, Georgia, LSU, those 3 have kind of rotated of who's been the top dog, and all 3 of those teams look beatable, right, which is a big factor to that. So, look, I think the SEC will figure itself out and line it back up, because think about it. Texas still has to play Oklahoma, right? So I think Texas honestly has the easiest route out of these 5 schools right now, because Oregon has to go up against Utah. They're going to have to go up against USC. They're going to have to go up against Washington State, Oregon State. I don't know if they play all those teams, but the Pac-12 isn't no slouch either. So they're going to roll into what the SEC typically has to deal with, and that is beating each other up. Ohio State, same boat. They've got to go up against Michigan at the end of the year. Penn State, obviously. Minnesota low-key is going to give these guys some fits. That is one hell of a defensive-led team. They are going to give one of these teams a fit. I don't know which one it's going to be, but I was watching their game last night, and they're going to give some teams some fits. So they're going to give be something to deal with. Wisconsin, Luke Fickell, they could be a trap game that you have to watch out for. So they'll beat each other up, right? Again, Penn State, Ohio State, one of those teams are going to go down. It's inevitable.
And Michigan too, because Michigan and Ohio State play.
Yeah, one of these 3 of the 5 is only going to make it. And so, again, let's not get too ahead of the buck here with the SEC falling, because once these guys start beating up. The issue is the SEC has lost non-conference games, which is where the narrative is starting to come from, right? They're losing to the Miami, or A&M's losing to Miami and such. So it's a great time to be in the SEC if your team's there, because you do feel like it is winnable. But yeah, I think the talent has definitely spread itself out. I was watching the Oregon game, and one of the top cornerbacks was a 5-star recruit from Alabama. And this is exactly what we talked about. These teams that have been close for quite some time now are able to go and pick apart those strong SEC teams, those 5-star guys that just aren't making the cut, but will be a huge impact in a team like Oregon that plays in a Pac-12 defenseless conference, have an opportunity for them to thrive. But look, I think a hell of a week 4. It was a kind of a flat week 4 in my opinion. I expected it to be more fireworks, but it was the old reliable week where it felt like there was a lot of hype behind it, and then it kind of fell flat just due to teams getting the job done. The Ohio State Notre Dame game lived up to the hype. That was a fun game to watch. Really exciting. Watching, I was like, man, I got to get up there to one of those Big Ten matchups, man. People talk about how great they are, and I know the SEC, we kind of ride that boner a little bit, but watching that game last night was fun. I really enjoyed it. I really have found myself enjoying watching college ball this year, and more than I have in the past, and I think it's only going to get more exciting, especially with the playoffs.
Yeah, good variety of college ball, too. It's not just all just SEC heavy, too. You know what I mean? I've been watching a lot of Tulane. That's a fun team to watch.
Cody pulling out the Tulane hat. Boys, over 120 people in here. Make sure you guys smash the like button. Hope you guys are enjoying the content thus far. Again, this is our new show, our new game day show, college football recap show. If you guys miss our topics, we have some bangers out there, okay? We've got the old reliable topic. We've got the you like that, peel it off, and rebound. So if you missed those segments, go back, check them out. Had an absolute blast. We'll be back here on next Sunday with the exact same thing. And we're going to add some more segments as we go along. Very first show, throwing this together. And I hope you guys enjoyed it. Go ahead.
Do you want to talk about Florida real fast?
What do you want to talk about?
I mean, we got a kicker.
We had our Gator show on earlier today. I like to do that show early. I got to keep the Gator guys kind of calm down early in the morning. But yeah, we got a kicker. Gators, looked a little flat. Hopefully if they make this segment here, I think they have a potential to make the show next week. Right? But we'll see how that plays out.
Yeah, for sure.
I bet Professor's watching a lot of college football. His Vikings are 0-3. It's easy. Cody's going through it.
Yeah, it's a rough day to be a Vikings fan. Kirk Cousins goes and drops one right in the bucket as they're trying to win a game-winning drive right to the defensive back. So, I think with Florida, I think a lot of people were kind of doubting them or down this game because we didn't blow Charlotte out. But I don't. It's fine. They're fine. Defense still looked good.
We'll be all right.
You know what I mean?
Look,
the play calling was vanilla.
Sure.
So it's
everything
not that
will be
big
fine.
a deal.
Yeah, we talked about it. I mean, again, I think if you clearly Coda doesn't watch the show, but there were some great perspectives from some fans that I read in their comments, and I understood where the frustration came from. But I get both sides of it. So, hey. Great first show, though. I appreciate you guys coming in here and hanging out. Over 70 strong. Now we have a couple hundred people in here at some point. So great first, inaugural college show. We're humping and moving here, boys. We've got a lot of shows that we're on rolling here on High Top Sports. Obviously, we have our banger that we have every Wednesday live at 8:35. We've been seeming to have a Monday show every Monday, recapping Billy and his press conference. So be sure to tune in for that tomorrow. More than likely, will be at 8:35. Stephen Harris joined us last week. Maybe we'll have him on again this week, kind of get that going a little bit more, having some more older Gators hop in and give us their thoughts of what's happening on the football field. Then Saturday, 9:30 a.m., we have our High Top Game Day show, which has really started to take off. Really enjoying that show. It's an absolute blast. And then obviously we have our watch parties, our call-in shows on Saturday. So Saturday's jam-packed, so keep your phone turns on, keep the bell lighted up. And then on Sunday, we're going to have our recap Florida show. And then now 7:35 every Sunday, we're going to do our college recap game day show. But Cody, appreciate you, big guy. Closing thoughts before we go?
Go Gators. We got a kicker.
That's it. That's how you end the show, boys and girls. Be good. Love you. Sleep tight on the Bedbugs Bite. Have a happy Sunday and go watch some NFL football.
Cause I got something to prove. I gotta take what I hate and finally make a move. I think of you and all the shit you don't do. Well, I'ma make hella sure that I don't become